welcome along to our Think About It session, our weekly empowered leadership conversation. And I must apologise because I have got a cold and I do sound a little bit nasally. But today I'm going to welcome Louise again. She's standing in for Tinny. He's still away on holiday. So Louise, hello and welcome back to our session.
I know, I'm so excited to be in Tinny's place again this week. I'll be missing next week when he comes back. So thank you, Tinny, for letting me be in your space today. Yeah.
And I've really loved having you along as well, because it's just, it's nice, isn't it, to have different dynamics and for people listening just to get a different take on it. And we've talked about things that are within your areas of expertise. So it just gives people a wider, broader topic to talk about of what we do here at the Ethical Coaching Company. So for anyone watching on YouTube, I do apologise for the state of that I look, because I have actually got Louise is looking very glam and she's bringing the glam and all gorgeous. I'm just bringing the tissues and the
look fine.
So for anyone that's new or just coming along, we do these sessions every week on a Thursday, and it's just a really short snippet of things that we think that will help you as a leader become more collaborative, more compassionate, empathetic leader. And today we're talking about limiting beliefs as a leader. And this is an area that is within your area of expertise, Louise, and this is what you support your clients with. So I'm really looking forward to this session, because I think this is this topic is something I think if you've not done work on it before is so powerful, isn't it? And I think even when we have done work on it, we can be held back by these things that we're not even aware of. So hopefully we're going to bring some awareness to this for those that are listening, and to give them some tips and advice of how they can help and support themselves within this topic. So let's start. What do we even mean by a limiting belief? What is a limiting belief?
Do you want me to go ahead? Yep.
Go for it.
Okay. So a lot of our beliefs and our value system and things like that are created when we're young children, from the age of 0 to 7. Our subconscious mind is really primed. It's really open. It's really suggestible to conversations, to invitations, to things that we hear, we feel, we see, we recognize as children, and we can end up taking on beliefs from our family members, from people in education, from our siblings, from peers, things like that. And some of these beliefs may not be helpful because they're coming from, it's almost like a generational, it's a generational line, because it's not just coming from your parents. It's coming from their parents, it's coming from their upbringing, it's coming from your peers, their upbringing. So there's a whole mix of things that can go on that can create a limiting belief. So let me give you an example of a limiting belief that might come up as a business owner, entrepreneur, or director and CEO of your company, is that you may have watched your parents work so hard to get the money that they have made in their lives and their businesses, like working so hard, working all hours, 60, 70 hours a week, always on, always busy, always, like work, and maybe not had that time and attention with your parents because they've been working hard to give you the lifestyle and the cars and the things that you may have had as a child. And yes, you may have felt appreciative of those things as a child, but you've also developed the belief that you have to work hard to get those things. That you have to work hard. So it becomes about achievement, working hard, setting a standard, and all of those things. And this is where one of those tiny beliefs can be really ingrained in someone from the beginning. Because in the age of 0 to 7, we have no our rational frontal cortex is not developed properly yet. We're in a state of like the theta, which is the different layers of consciousness, and we're basically in primal hypnosis. We're really suggestible to everything that's going on around us. We don't have that rational part of our mind that says, no, there's another way. Look at this belief. Look at this. Look at this. We can develop our parents. You could be running your business through your 5-year-old self. You could be running your business through your parents' thinking, your parents' beliefs, your parents' values. So when we bring this into a leadership and when we bring this into business, it's so important to understand where these beliefs are derived from, where they're coming from, where they've been developed, and where they're actually playing out in your business. Yeah.
And I think that's a really important point of where they're playing out, because these beliefs, like you said, they sit in the subconscious mind. We're not even aware of them. Excuse me. We're not even aware that they're even impacting our lives and our businesses. And sometimes on the front face of it, people are like, oh, well, why would I sabotage myself? Why would I limit my beliefs? Like, that's not me. And we almost have to stop, don't we, and dig a little bit deeper. And some of the things like the limiting beliefs that I know that I've come across when people have worked, and even myself, like as I've grown as a business owner and as a leader or in my career, like there's beliefs that you think you live by these beliefs as if they are fact, don't you?
Yep.
They're so ingrained that you don't even question them. And I think one that you said there that really rings true to me is like, you've got to work hard to be successful. And like, I mean, work hard as in work yourself to the bone hard, not just hard work and like, you know, you show up every day and you're committed and all that stuff. That's a very different thing. Absolutely. But then it's almost like you're not worthy of the success unless you've absolutely worked incredibly hard for it. And just some other examples of that I come across is about people have this belief that they need to have the answers for everything, and that stops people going for promotions, growing and building their team, because they haven't got all the answers. And I don't know if that's something that you've come across, or if there's other things that brings for you.
And that can often come as well when someone does know a lot of information and they feel that they've got where they are, but to get to that next stage, they need to know more. They have to know more information. And as we know, information is just information unless we're implementing and taking action from that. So yes, that's a very big belief that can play out as well, is that to make that transition from here to there, it's about doing more or knowing more, when actually it's about being more. It is about that's, you know, really shifting that identity piece, that piece that's going to take you to that next stage. Because you can have all the things, you can have the perfect strategy, you can have the perfect organization, and you know, you can have all the different parts of the moving parts of the business, but if you're not fully behind that, then that just becomes a thing that you have. And we can see that quite a lot, where that will hold many people back in terms of thinking that they do have to have all the answers. No one has all the answers. We're in an evolution and growth space where information is, yes, it's at our fingertips, and it's so wide and vast, but we don't need to know all the answers. We can learn the answers as we go, and sometimes our biggest learning is when we're moving and learning at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said before around where they come from, because our brain is so clever, like we know it's so powerful, and it's almost like that confirmation bias where it looks to prove yourself right. Do you know? And I think we don't often stop and question and reflect, do we? That where's this come from? Why do I feel like that's the truth? Like, we don't challenge ourselves, do we?
No, and that is part of the reticular activating system in the brain, also known as the RAS for short, where if you've ever been, and I'm sure many people probably played this game, where it's like you see a yellow car, or you count all the yellow cars on a car journey, you're going somewhere with your family, and it's like
that game
yellow car, you know, all of that. And it's because your brain is primed to look for, you're giving it an instruction. Your subconscious is so powerful. You're giving it an instruction, look for all the yellow cars, bring me all the yellow cars, it will bring me all the yellow cars. And it's the same if you can even think about a time where you've purchased a new item, a new car or something, you're like, I've not seen many people have these, but then you buy the thing and it's like, oh, everyone has this. It's because your RAS is really zoning in on that thing. So it will always provide, your brain always wants to keep you in, like, it wants to have you survive. It wants to have you like in that space of survival. So it will bring you evidence when you ask it of those things. And the way that we use our language and our words in our mind and in our subconscious is so important, because if we are asking our brain to find evidence of, there's no money this month, or I can't get my team member to perform, or, this is not working, your mind is then going to find you evidence of that thing. It's going to find more and more evidence of the team member not doing the thing. It's going to find you more and more evidence of why this is not working. So it's about uncovering what is going on in the subconscious mind and uncovering some of these beliefs and how we start to dissolve them like tiny threads and grains that we can just shift. We can shift beliefs in an instance when we start to ask our mind to look for evidence of other things.
And that leads me on to, how do we see this playing out, right? Because we've explored what limiting beliefs are, where they've come from, what they are. Like, how do we see these, well, one, as coaches, but two, as managers, leaders, people in business? Because while we're talking about stuff that goes on in the brain, it's really difficult to put something tangible against that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there is tangible evidence and impact in the day-to-day running of your business that we see that these limiting beliefs have, isn't there?
Our internal world is always reflected by our external world, and a lot of people see that differently. They see so they may notice something in the external and want to try and fix the external. So they see the thing happening outward and think, I need to fix that. That needs to be changed. When actually it's coming from internal, that it's not about fixing, it's about shifting and changing those beliefs that are then going to display outwards. So in terms of coaching and like looking at staff members or your people that are around you, it's about recognizing where they are hitting their own barriers or where they are not evolving or growing, despite them saying that they want the promotion or they want that next thing or they want to go and do they want to make a shift or a change. But actually when they come up to that point, and I call this an upper level limit, where you only will have capacity to a certain degree. If your subconscious mind thinks it's unsafe, let me give you an example. So someone may want to, go on stage, do a speaker presentation, go on and speak on a massive podcast or give an interview. Their conscious mind is like, yes, this is going to be so great for business development. We're going to attract more leads. We're going to acquire different businesses coming in and things like that. But actually, in the subconscious, if it feels unsafe, if there's a limiting belief playing out around it's unsafe to be that visible, it's unsafe to attract more leads in, because there could be a limiting belief about if you attract more leads in, you don't have the processes in place to actually take on all those clients. So you can start to see how that kind of shifts out in the business. And what then may happen is they then end up with a throat infection, or they then end up like, so severe, like breaking a leg or something like that, because the subconscious will literally do anything to keep you safe from that next stage goal. When we understand this and we start to see a pattern in the behavior and what your level of capacity is, then we can shift and change that. We can start to climatize the body. We can start to titrate the body to a stage that it feels safe to go and make that next stage move, that transition.
And I think what's really important there is around the behaviors and the patterns and the sabotage in yourself, because we might think, like you say, and we see it in coaching all the time because we get to observe independently, right? So we can see repeat patterns of behavior. We can see people tell us one thing, but actually their choices, decisions, and actions reflect very different. But when we're in that moment ourselves, it's really difficult to see, isn't it, sometimes? And I think, like you said there, like we operate under that stealth mode, and we almost telling ourselves one story to make it believable, to make it happen, where actually if we just stop and took a step back and looked at this independently, as if it was somebody else, you might have a very different story to tell, mightn't you, than the one like when you are in it. And I think examples of how we see this playing out, so that could be that barrier to the promotion or growing their team or growing their business or becoming more visible. There's stories that play out under all of these things, isn't there? That is around keeping us safe, that limiting belief. It's almost serving that limiting belief by you not getting the promotion, by you not growing your business. And I don't know about you, but when I'm talking to coaches or I'm coaching someone or I'm supporting a business, like, it's almost like, why would I sabotage myself? It seems so counterintuitive to go, well, obviously I wouldn't do that. I want that growth. I want more clients. I want, like, why would I do that? And that's a really great point, isn't it? Because then that ego comes in and going, I'm not doing that. No, that's not me. I wouldn't stop myself. And that is almost like that stealth mode of your brain convincing yourself that actually I'm doing all I can. Well, actually you're doing all you can to prevent this from happening.
And it could be so sneaky, so nuanced, like so tiny. It's like a tiny thread, a tiny crack that could come in, where, you know, you might be aiming for that higher income bracket, or to go more visible in your business, or to really own who you are and what you're doing, or really step into that leadership role. And it could be just something so small that comes in, enough to pierce the veil, enough to pierce a crack and start to let the water trickling in, which eventually will start to obviously have an impact on business and it's probably not until the water then starts influxing into the business that you actually see a physical response from that and think, whoa, wait a minute, what is actually going on here? So it could, you know, there could be, there's tons of examples I can give as well, just where, you know, someone does want to become more visible, or they do want to hold more boundaries. Saying that we're going to be more boundaried is far easier than actually holding
doing
the boundary, right?
Saying you're doing it's easy.
Saying you're going to do it is easy. Like that, we can all like have the hype and cheerleading mode where like, we're going to change the world, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But actually stepping into that and being so solid as your body is shaking, and being so solid as everything around you starts to crumble, because your subconscious wants to find the evidence of this is not going to work, it's not going to work. So we'll start to bring everything in to show you evidence of why it can't work. And then we'll have you retreating back into comfort zone of, okay, the last time I tried to public speak, this happened, so that's unsafe. I can't do that again. The last time I tried to grow my business, all my family members started to get sick. So it starts to create a new belief, sometimes a really unhelpful belief, of every time you scale, a family member gets sick. Every time you scale, some money hemorrhages somewhere, or clients start dropping off. And then what then happens, it starts to find more and more beliefs and more evidence of why you can't have that thing.
It's almost it's almost attaching unconnected things to the belief in order to go, see, this is it. I told you we shouldn't do that. This is only happening because you've done this. This is only happening because that. So you instantly go back into safety of like, oh no, I'm just going to go back.
It's like the tortoise in the shell, isn't it? It's like, let me just have a peek out here and see the big wide world, but actually no, it's safer in here, you know. So and once we unhook and unloop from these beliefs, we can then, when we're aware of what, everyone will have different saboteurs that play out for them. They will have different things that will periodically happen in their business, and it's not until we start to really unhook, uncover, go under the hood, look at the blind spots and look at the differences between the goal, the vision, and where you are, that you can start to unravel all of these different parts that will then will really then start to expose it, because our ego and that part of our mind doesn't want it exposed. It will it will cling and claw, and you almost feel like a part of you dying as you are, like, you know, going to that next stage. There's a part of you like, oh my goodness, this is so like just uncomfortable. But that's when you know you're growing.
And you don't grow in the comfort, right? Like, you have to do that discomfort. I do a saboteur assessment with clients, and it's so interesting. And it's a positive intelligence, like a PQ based one. And it's so interesting for people that people almost wear that kind of high achiever badge of honor. That kind, they almost dressing up their limited belief as a proud badge of honor because they think that's what needs to happen. Well, actually, when we start to unpack it, how is that serving you in the position you're in? How is that serving you trying to achieve your business goals? And I think, sharing from a personal experience, and as you know, because you've been on this journey with me, but like those limiting beliefs can be created as you go. It doesn't all come from childhood, because like I had my natural state's hustle, push, very masculine, but I went through a massive journey through building my other business and into this business, where I did that, and it just completely burnt me out. It didn't work. I was burnt out in corporate because of it. But then that almost went the complete other way of like, success is going to bring burnout. Like really busy business is going to make me feel really ill again. So there's that belief, and it's not true. It's just how you manage that for yourself. So those beliefs can be created at any point, can't they, from anywhere?
So it's not just the 0 to 7. I mean, it is, we're constantly, we're hooking into beliefs all the time. We're hooking into media, programs, films, other people, conversations, everything that we are listening to, and consumption isn't just about food. Consumption is about what we listen to and the environments that we keep, and how we consume our environments around us. Because we can pick up, you can often hear someone's limiting belief, their own limiting belief, when you hear someone say about a level of success. It's like, well, how can you do that? Like, how is that possible? That can't be done that way. That's their limiting belief playing out. They don't believe that. That doesn't mean that you can't have that thing. And as a leader, we need to be able to spot when those conversations are coming up, and what the people around us are consuming, and what they're listening to. It's just the way it is. And I think we mentioned that on last week's mini podcast as well, that when it is just the way it is, that's a belief playing out. That's their story. And how do we break through that level? How do we break through that limitation and change and shift that?
And that's really important, because like, when you have a coach, when you have a good coach, it's easy for coaches to identify these behaviors, these patterns, and that independent perspective. So if you are working with a coach, picking up these limiting beliefs and working on them it's not easy, it's hard to do, but it's easily identified, or easier, should I say, easier to identify as the coach than when you're in it. So you've just said something there. So I was thinking, like, so people listening, if they want to start getting really, really curious and start to work on these limiting beliefs, and they might be sat thinking, oh, well, I have that belief. Oh, I can now start to see a pattern of every time I do that happens. And I think a great starting point is that feeling that you've just said, of that instant response. I always say to my clients, what's your instant response? The gut, the thought, like, what is it? And that's so important to be curious of, because that's the true belief, right? So when you see somebody who is really visible, really successful, their business has grown quick, if your instant response is, oh, I bet they have no home life, I bet, like, oh, I bet that's messy, like, oh, how are they holding that? Like, that's what you need to tap into, isn't it? And stay curious of why you believe that, or why you think that. So I think the curiosity around that initial feeling is a good place to start.
Absolutely. And it's the trigger, isn't it? Because the trigger, like a lot of people, and it can be triggering, there's lots of triggering things that can happen in our lives. But if we get curious about the trigger, if we get curious about, well, what is this actually provoking in my body? What is really coming up for me? Is it that I'm envious of this person, or is it that I don't feel that I'm capable of having that and I want that? You know, so there's lots of different ways that our beliefs can play out. And I think being open and honest with ourselves as well, like open and honest about, and it comes down blindly to awareness, like being really aware of when the thought comes in and snapping it in that moment, of catching it and saying, okay, what is this really showing me? You know, what is this really showing me in this moment? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? How am I behaving as a response of that?
And there is a limitation to what we can see for ourselves, isn't there? Because we have blind spots. And even as coaches, and I said it this morning on a coaching call, is like, and it is that age-old thing of like, you can't read the label from inside the bottle, right? And we absolutely can't, and we are going to have blind spots. So for people listening, getting feedback, getting some element of supervision, some peer-to-peer feedback in trusted spaces, like there's nothing wrong with that, is there? Like that can only aid the development and the growth.
And I think as well, not being afraid of giving that feedback, not being afraid to ask the difficult questions, not being afraid of challenging, because I think that could be a thing as well for a lot of leaders. They don't want to upset people or don't want to get on the wrong side of, they don't want to be disliked, things like that. But if it's with the intention of someone's growth, that's a different ballgame altogether, because that when we have the intention not to ridicule a person or shame them or judge them, but it's like, let me bring this intent to the table and see where this can help you grow. Let me, you know, and it comes down to the confidence of being able to have those deeper, in-depth conversations.
But ask permission, right? Like, Louise, can I offer you some feedback? Like, I'm seeing a repeat behavior. Would you be open to some development feedback? You know, it's that asking permission and leading with empathy and kindness. It's not to rip you down. It's not to diminish you. It's not to embarrass you. It's actually, if I share this with you, we can grow together. I can support you to move past it. And that's a different energy, different conversation.
Different conversation, completely different conversation. And it can open so many doors for a person that is ready to grow, because if we can, I always say that our beliefs are like Jenga, right? Once we start to pull the belief from each belief, at some point it will collapse. It will collapse and completely eradicate that belief. And a new Jenga, like, you know, we're always playing Jenga with our beliefs. We really are. We're just picking them out all the time. But we can create new beliefs and find new evidence using our RAS, like, and get playful with it. I would say as well, like, turn this into a game, have fun with it. Let me find evidence of someone that's running a multi-million pound company in this area of expertise. Let me find evidence of someone already doing this. Let me find evidence of, give your brain something to work for, give it something good to work for, give it something new to work for, rather than it repeating and giving you the old evidence. Ask for new evidence.
I love it, but also having the belief in yourself that you can change this, and it's not set in stone. Beliefs aren't factual, whereas we almost have this belief, this thing of like, this is my belief is your actual living fact. That's what has to happen. I cannot change that. Actually, yes, you can. And it's having that belief in yourself that it's gonna, yes, it might be difficult, yes, it might be uncomfortable, yes, it might be vulnerable, but you can change that thought process and that thought pattern to serve you, can't you?
100%. And I wouldn't, and I'm sure you wouldn't be in this field of expertise if we did not believe that change can happen in an instant. It really can. It can just take, as quick as you've developed your beliefs, you can undevelop them. You can find a new belief. And that's the power of the mind, the power of the subconscious, is that we can change, we can develop new habits and things like that. But if we're working on our old programming, we're basically running a program at 97% of our mind. Is driving the car for us.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Louise. Such an interesting topic. I could talk about it all day.
I know, I'm the same.
Come and check out Louise. Come and check us out at the Ethical Coaching Company. If it's something that you want to work on or we can support you with, please don't hesitate. Hopefully we'll give you some food for thought and just stay curious is what I would say. And brilliant. We'll be back next week. Tinny will be back from his holidays. But thank you so much, Louise.